Hi everyone, so welcome to today's lecture. And in today's lecture, we're simply going to be looking at scripting in Airtable. And scripting in Airtable gives you the ability to use JavaScript to make some query and fetch information. Now, like I mentioned in the previous video, this does not have access to DOM API, just the JavaScript syntax. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you want to do is we're going to start from scratch. We'll delete this dashboard. So you want to add an extension, which is the scripting extension. So you will see scripting here, and this gives you access. Now the first thing you want to notice is that once you're presented to this interface, you have the option of starting from scratch. So we'll start from scratch, and we're simply just going to run this, and it says hello world. So let's just change this to welcome to scripting tutorial. And if you run this, you get this. So we're simply just going to run a script to fetch up the information from the table. So the first thing you want to do, and also if you notice at the bottom here, there is API. And what this API does, we're going to expand this. What this API does, it gives you access to the documentation. So let's read from the table. So the first thing you want to do is get connection to the table. So we'll name this character table. And instantly, you will notice in this documentation here, the base. So the base means this specific base that we're looking at here. And this is our table. So what we want to do is say base.getTable. And one of the beauties is that it also fetches, it has some form of intelligence, so you can easily get access to names of existing base or tables. So we do this. Now we'll simply want to fetch the records. So what we want to do is have records stored in an array, and we'll say, so let's put this on full screen. Now for you to fetch the records, we're looking at table, because if you take a look at this returns the character table. So we're looking for the method here. I know the method, but I'm just assuming this is my first time. So select records from our sync, and you're giving an example here. So I'm simply just going to say, it's a promise, so I'm going to say await. A promise is something like that is asynchronous, and when something is asynchronous, it means you have no idea when it's going to finish. So await says like it's going to wait for the operation to finish, and once the operation finishes, you can have access to the records, because typically JavaScript would use some form of callback, but promises were created to make this kind of simplistic flow so that we won't get into other callback issues. So what we'll do is say get character dot select record asyncs. Now if you look at the documentation, even it tells you this, it gives you this addition field. So we want specific fields we want to list from. So we're going to say so if you look at the documentation, so let's look at what we want to load. We want to load name and gender, and let's see, name, gender, and I guess just name and gender is okay for now. So we pass this an object for the options. So we say fields, so we say name, gender. Let's take a look. Name, gender. Name, gender, and I guess name and gender works. So if we increase this, let's look at console.log records. So we simply run this, and you see we have record IDs and record. Now for this is an empty record too, and we want to go through each of the records. So we'll say for record of records, so say const record of records, I should say query results, because it actually returns a result. So say query result.records. Now, in order to get each record, remember each record contains a list of fields. So we'll say field value is equal to record. So record is like the whole row. So we need a specific record to get. So we get cell value. And by the time we put this name here, we'll say name. And we come here, we'll say gender is equal to record dot get cell value, comma gender. Then this console.log, I will say my name is, I will pass name here, and my gender is, we'll pass this here, we'll say name, my gender is gender. So we can either console.log, but maybe we'll use the output dot markdown, so we can, so we save this, and by the time we run this, and you can see my name is Luke Skywalker and my gender is male. So these are one of the ways to, you know, query. And if you also want to write to it, there is so let's take here, so for you to write back to a query, you need a record ID. So let's try to write back to it. So what we need is const record ID is equal to record.id. Oh, there's no even need to do that. So we get character table dot update record async. So update record async takes one character and it takes an ID, then writes it with value. So what you first do is pass the record dot ID, comma. So what you want to pass is the name. So we pass the name here. So I'm going to say, okay, well, Aderemi. I'll put myself as a Star Wars character. Then we'll say gender. Post myself as male because obviously that's what I am. So remember, if you look at this, you can see it's a promise. So we need to put an await. And once we put an await here, we can say console.log data has been written to the record. So if you take a look at this, update record async, it takes the record ID, so it knows which specific record to update. Then we pass the fields we want to update. And by the time you run this, it says data has written to the record. And if you take a look at this, you'll see that it has updated the record. But now we're simply going to delete everything here. And in the next example, I'm simply going to take you through making an async call. I'm making a fetch call, calling third-party APIs from Airtable. So now what we will want to do is, from this script here, we want to make a call to this API here. So if you look at this API here, so we want to fetch all people. So let's take a look at the documentation and let's go back. So this says record 1. So we say people requests. So if you look at this, this fetches all the requests. So we're simply just going to take this API here. So we'll write a code that will fetch all the APIs, then dump them into this table all at once. So fetch all the Star Wars character and dump into the table. So the first thing we want to do is have our endpoint deb modified here. So we'll say, we'll look at it, people. Now what you simply do is we'll say response. So we're going to first test it out first to see if it actually works. So response fetch. So fetch, you pass the name of the endpoint here. Now typically you could pass things into the header, but let's just do that. So in the header here, I'm going to say content/type, then over here we'll say application/JSON. Then by default it should be a get. So let's just go around and test this out. So we'll say const here data is equal to await response.json. We'll pass it here, sorry. Then we'll console.log our data to see what comes back. And once you run this, you can see it's made the API call and we've gotten our response, and our response is also result. So 10 is okay for us. 10 is, so if we look at the schema of, we'll see like we have the object coming back and we have the results. So let's go back to code. Oh, sorry, let's run this again. Then so for each of the results, we look at this. So I'm just going to take a copy of this here, copy it back to code, then paste it. Then I will just use this as a guide. So now the first thing we want to do is we want to have a record for counts. So we'll say count is equal to, let me just undo it. Okay, const data is equal to await response.json. So we need our count here first, so that's, or we can just say output.markdown and say we got data.results from the Star Wars API. Now the next thing we want to do is iterate over each result and update it. So what we'll simply do is, because we have 10 results, what we'll simply do is look at updating each record in the base. So we're simply just going to say for const info of, this should be data.count actually, and this should be data.results. So we want to go through each of them. So for each of the results, what we want to do is insert it into the record. So we want to insert into the record. So we simply say character sorry, I deleted some things here. So we'll say const character table is equal to base dot get table. So we have our connection to this table here. Now we'll simply just do dot. So we look at table to, we look for the method to insert. So we check, do we have create record asyncs or create record? So we can have everything in one batch, or we can do it one by one, but I prefer to do it one by one for now. So we'll say create record async. So when you pass it here, you see the fields, we need to pass in the fields. So we say name, and the first one we have here is info.name. Then we move to height, we have height here, so we put info.height. Then the next one is let's see, mass. Do I have mass in the table? Okay, yes, we have mass in the table, so you say info.mass. Then look at air color, say info.air color, then comma. We can simply just, at this point, we can simply just take this here and paste here. So just to make it easier. So we'll put this here, info.skin color. Sorry, put this comma here. So info.eye color. So let's check to see if all those information are actually there. URL vehicles, okay, they're actually there. So let's go ahead. So I'm just going to make my job faster. So say info.bet here, comma, info.gender, comma, info.onMod. So some of this here I've some of it here I have arrays, but for the purpose of this, I'm not going to really go into this, because for each of the field there's a specific format of how you have to set it, especially if it has multiple options. So for now, we're not going to get into that. So we're just going to simply eliminate this and continue with this here, info.created. I don't think we have created, do we? Okay, we have created. Then we put a comma here. Let's see, expected comma. Okay, sorry, this was missing. So we have info.edited over here. Then here we're going to have info.url. Now, because this is a promise, as usual, we have to have our weight. Then after this record is dumped here, we can just say, we can just have it here and say output.markdown, put here, information has been created for, we put this here, say still under this info, so we say info.name. Yeah, then we can simply go ahead and delete this. So let's see our character table. We call the endpoint. Then once we get the endpoints for each of the results, we dump it here. Then it's safe for us to run the code and see what happens. So invalid cell for height must be a number. So because this is a number, we're going to say pass int, convert it to a number. So let's see what happens again. For mass must be a number. Okay. Pass integer, so that converts from string to number. And let's see, let's run and see. Invalidate. Let's see for birth year. So we're going to say let me see, like to convert the date, so we'll say birth year is equal to new date, comma, then birth year dot set date. So let's pass in info dot birth underscore year. So this is just an alias of saying birth year is assigned to this. It's not assigned to string. Oh, sorry, home world. I just realized this. So let's call this home world. I'm assuming we're going to have the same problem for created, but let's run and see. Home world invalidate. Let me see. You know what? Let's go around to skip home world. And for created invalidate, I'll fix that later on, but let's just go ahead to dump some data. That's just the purpose of this. Invalidate edited, so this, I'll take care of that later on. I'm not sure of the date format, so let's run this. Field URL invalidate. I'm coming. URL shouldn't be a date, so we're going to look at that. Edit field URL should be text or URL itself. So let's run this. So you can see from the script we're able to get the information and just dump it directly into the table. So that's one of the beauty of Airtable, is that you can have code you write to fetch information. So you can have code to fetch information. So for the date, I pretty much have to figure out why the date isn't working. So let's look at that. And we're simply just going to comment this. Now I've gotten all the information in it written out, but the date isn't working. So we're going to take a look at the date specifically. So we'll get rid of this code here. Now I'm going to say console.log info. So we'll look at the info. So we'll see the date that is coming. Okay, so we need to convert the date. So let's play around and see. We'll say const, let's take edited for example. We'll say is equal to new date. I think I should pass info.edited to this, then console.log edited. Let's see, oops, sorry, console.log edited. So let's see if we actually get a real date from this. Okay, so I don't trust this. So I'm going to console.log data.results. We're going to just console.log data and see if the data are actually all the same. No, console.log info, sorry. So it says 2014-12, 2014-12, 28. Okay, so it seems they're all the same date. So we're going to say edited dash to okay, December 2014. So that's quite accurate. So we're going to try to update each of the dates here. So the first thing I want to do, it says they're all the same date. I'm just going to see how I can rewrite them. So what I want to do is fetch the characters dot say const records equal to await characters table dot select record async. So right now I'm working with just date edited. So we're going to say edited and created. So this will be query results. We don't need to pass here, so we'll say for record for const record of query dot record. So this is each of the record. So I'm going to say character table dot update record async. So pass here record dot id. So what are we editing? We're looking at edited. So we're going to do so I'm simply just going to take one of the dates. Oh, sorry, hold on. Let's go with let's see. So let's see. We have the data here. It depends on how I want to do this. Do I want to so right now I'm just going to take one of the dates from the so I'm just going to take one of the dates here. Dates edited. I just don't just take one of the dates just to prove an example. Normally I would iterate through everything, but so I'll take results comma dot edited. So let's console.log date edited just to see what we get. Okay, so we've gotten this date here. So we're just going to now we'll just iterate through all the records. And once we iterate through the records, we use our character table dot update record async, pass this, So say record.id, then pass here, then we'll look at edited. So now edited, it says date, and if you look at this, is a date object, so we just simply pass this and we'll say await. And after this, we can just simply say compute.mark update on markdown date has been updated for the records. So let's see, let's hope this works. Data has been updated for the record. So we take a look at edited, and you can see you now get the appropriate date. So yes, in the next video, we're simply going to be looking at calling APIs and dealing with specific record fields such as the drop down. So with this video, this gives you knowledge of how to write scripting in Airtable, and you can also play with more of this where you have input, where you can take input from that. But this is just an example of how you can communicate with the base using scripting in Airtable. So in the next chapter, we'll look at, you know, things like taking input, then based on the input, you know, performing some logic. But till then, looking forward to the next class. So take care.